Okay, hello everyone, and we are continuing the long-awaited I Smell Love series. And I thought I'd restart them with a really important topic, which is self-care. So today we have my wonderful long-time friend of, is it 20 years? 20, about 20 years, Miss Elisabeth Santos, who is known to me as Lizzie. So you might hear that. Sorry, guys. But welcome, Lizzie.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here and to, make this conversation happen.
Exactly. And thank you. And so Lizzie, or Elisabeth, she's a naturopath and a physiotherapist, and she does some amazing stuff in the eastern suburbs of Adelaide. And we tried to tee up this interview for quite some time, actually, and it's very interesting that it's happening during a full moon in Gemini. Lizzie, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and what self-care means to you?
Thank you, and thanks for having me here just to start with. So I'm a physio and a naturopath, but I'm also a mum to a 2-year-old little boy. And I am working in a clinic in the eastern suburbs of Adelaide. And I also run some workshops for women and mums and health professionals about self-care. And I guess I started doing all of this work around self-care when I had a baby. Before I had my son, I was actually really quite good at self-care. You know, I would go to yoga regularly and I would do lots of meditation every day. Especially while I was pregnant, but I found that over the course of becoming a mum, that things changed a lot, and my self-care strategies just really went by the wayside. So it wasn't until my son was about 6 months old that I realised, wow, I haven't been taking care of myself at all. So that's when I realized that self-care was actually really important to me, and it wasn't just something that happened, or happens by accident. You actually have to make a concerted effort to take care of your needs and work out what those needs are. So that's how it all came about, this interest in self-care.
Thank you for that. And do you have any specific rituals that you follow in your own life or recommend to people that you work with that you could share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I'm so passionate about. I actually started doing a whole lot of self-care rituals in the morning. So I have a really strong morning program, I suppose you could call it now. It sounds a bit intense when I use the word program, but
oh my goodness.
But it is still quick and easy, and I can do it with a toddler running around and whilst making breakfast and getting organised for the day to go out of the house and all of those things. So my morning rituals, I guess, before I had my son were even more intense. I would roll out my yoga mat and do 45 minutes of asanas, and then I would do a 15-minute meditation and have a cup of tea. And so it would start at dawn and go for like an hour before I left the house. But that can't happen now, obviously, with a busy toddler. So I've really condensed it. And I love the fact that you can pick any rituals that work for you or things that you love to do and just kind of enjoy them in bite-sized pieces. So some of the things that I do in the morning are oil pulling with coconut oil. So that's for dental hygiene, just to clean your teeth and gums and remove toxins. So it's good to do at night as well, but I like to do it in the morning first thing. And then have a lemon water as well. I usually sit down with my little journal and just do a couple of minutes of gratitude journaling. Sometimes it's only 30 seconds, but it's enough just to kind of get grounded and focused on what's important to me and what I'm feeling thankful for. I also do some Kundalini breathing, which is a special breath that I learnt when I was at a retreat in Thailand. So it's just to really awaken the lower chakras and really cleanse all of your chakras. And it's really good for your lungs and like circulatory system as well in your brain. So And so I do that, and then a bit of like mirror work as well. When I happen to go and brush my teeth, I just do that. So that's a kind of quick and easy version, and they're things that I find all really beneficial on different levels. And you don't have to do all of those things, but often people that I share this with go, oh, maybe I'll start oil pulling, or maybe I'll swap my morning coffee for a lemon water and have a coffee when I'm in the office, or so. Yeah.
Thank you. For the people watching that don't exactly understand what oil pulling is, can you just give us a little, not demo, but a little explanation?
So actually, I run some self-care workshops, and in the last workshop that I ran in Adelaide, I brought my big jar of organic coconut oil, and we all had a spoon, and we all did oil pulling as a group. And it was great for people who hadn't tried it before, because it's less confronting to try something new or make a change when you get to kind of try it out and have some education. And so we all shared our experiences with oil pulling. Basically, you can use any oil that you like, as long as you choose like a premium oil. I would prefer to choose something that's organic, or just that you trust that it's a nice, good cold pressed oil, and it's refined. So if you, hang on, I'll have to check that. Even if maybe, I might be able to give some examples later. But basically, you just get a teaspoon. Pop it in the jar. If it's coconut oil, it might be hard. If it's winter, I mean, it's cold here in Adelaide, so my jar's gone hard again. It was all melted last week when it was 36 degrees. So you just get your teaspoon of coconut oil or sesame oil. I don't like olive oil or anything too intense. The lighter oils are definitely much better. And then just in the mouth, and then you just swish it around for up to 10 minutes. It seems like a long time. So if 10 minutes is too long, that's okay. You can do just 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. The longer you do it, the maximum the benefit, because it's really going to start to sort of get rid of some of that outer plaque and then pull out some deeper toxins in the gums. And it's excellent for dental caries. I've had lots of friends and family and clients as well who've oil pulled when they've had toothache or abscess or root canal gone wrong, So if you think, oh, my tooth isn't right, you can actually oil pull to help restore health in the gums and the teeth as well. But just as a day-to-day cleaning sort of process, it's really beneficial too. So I like to do it at the beginning of my sort of hustle and bustle in the kitchen, because then I can make a cup of tea and get like the brown rice on for a breakfast porridge or whatever we're doing, and then you don't even notice that you're, it's not like you have to sit down and just swish the oil. Because that can be a bit.
Well, no, I was just thinking, one thing that has turned me off oil pulling, and it's something that I really have wanted to do, because I've done it here and there, but not as a ritual, is that I have a very chatty child who wants to chat all the time. And I'm thinking, well, I need to do this for at least 10 minutes to get the benefit. But hearing you say that even 3 minutes is better than nothing might inspire me to reconsider the oil pulling. So,
Right. And even if, there might be days you can do it a bit longer, but even if you just do a short one, I still see that that's going to be beneficial. I don't have the research on that, but in my mind, it still feels beneficial.
Okay, random question. Where do you spit it out? Into the bin?
I actually have started putting it in the compostables, because we compost our greens, because, or you could do it on the earth outside, because it is organic and it doesn't really need to go to landfill. And it's actually better not to go down the drain as well, because in Australia and probably other parts of the world, there's become a bit of an epidemic of fats in the drains, which aren't supposed to be there, which can I suppose congregate and cause issues in the drains, and sort of these big blobs of oils and cooking fats. So better not to go down there. It's bad for the waterways.
Thank you. Well, that was good info. We also have a compost bin, so I'll be doing that. I also wanted to ask you mentioned Kundalini breathing, and I became interested in hearing more about that, because I often find, and I hear people do this as well, is I sometimes, if I'm a little bit stressed or a little bit anxious, I stop breathing, and I don't even realize I'm doing it until I realize that I'm a bit clogged up in my chest. So are you able to teach me how to do this? And
yes, I can. So even though I'm not a yoga teacher, so I should just make that clear. So I'm a physio, naturopath. I teach Pilates, and I've practiced yoga for a long, long time, maybe coming up to 20 years actually. So I started in year 12. So basically, the premise of the Kundalini breath is that you're awakening the Kundalini. So the Kundalini is that serpent, or that theory, I suppose, of a serpent at the base of the spine, that can be awakened with deep spiritual practice and certain yoga postures and certain breathing. And why I got interested in the Kundalini breath is because it really connects you with your lower chakras, which often, not just women, but people in general can be disconnected because we spend a lot of time in our head and our heart. And even if you spend a lot of time in nature or you feel like quite a relaxed person, you might still not be connecting with your womb, connecting with your root chakra. So I guess, that's why I sort of shifted towards this, and I learned this technique through a top coach that I was working with, and she proposed this sort of 40-day reset with the Kundalini breath. And I kept going. I'm now day 124.
okay.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll do 100 days. And then I was like, I really enjoy this, so I'll keep going. It's been quite powerful just to do that breath. And I guess I'm just sharing the understanding so that when we do it, and I'll run us all through it, we'll just do maybe 2 or 3 quick rounds. So, and you can see how quick and easy it is. So what you need to do is get yourself grounded. So I've just sat up a little bit straighter so that I'm not slumped in my chair, because you really want to feel actually your pelvic floor touching the chair. So I think of it as a physio as well, that it's that the pelvic floor is that sling of muscle which is between your pubic bone at the front and your coccyx at the back. So when you do the Kundalini breath, you're actually lifting your pelvic floor and you're drawing up through your root chakra up to the base and solar plexus, so the energy can sort of travel up. It'd be great if I had a picture of the chakras that I could show you, but if you aren't familiar, I love it. That's great. Close.
Something I did at a women's circle. Anyway, sorry, just thought I'd make a joke.
So basically this style of breath is where you're drawing in through the nose quite quickly. I'll just explain it first. And the lungs are almost like bellows. So if you can picture the bellows that you'd use to, pop air into a fire or to try and build the flame. So that's what your lungs are going to be doing quite quickly. So it's not big, deep breaths necessarily, but it's drawing the energy up through diaphragm, up through the rest of the upper chakras as well. So you've got heart, throat, third eye, and crown. So basically, hands on your lap. And then you can close your eyes, but you don't have to. I might just keep mine open so that I can still do the video. But we'll see what I'm doing as well. But yeah, basically, I'll just run you through one quick round now. So if you can take a big deep breath in through your nose and gently lift your pelvic floor. And then out, just to get that sense of what you're going to do with the pelvic floor lift. And then with the next breath,
sorry,
and then just breathe out. So that's just to prepare, just to see what it's like to lift your pelvic floor and breathe through your nose at the same time. And then release. And then next time we're going to take some short, sharp breaths in and out through the nose while we keep our pelvic floor lifted. So it looks like this. Or in other words, as my son calls it, it looks like sniffing. He walks around the house doing it. He says, I'm sniffing. I said, it's Kundalini breath, buddy. But yeah, so it's just short, sharp breaths in and out through the nose while you keep your pelvic floor lifted.
Right.
And you do it until you can't do it anymore. You know, you don't want to pass out because you're hyperventilating, because it's essentially what you're doing. So it's a really quick gas exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. And if you do it too much, you can end up with an overload of CO2. So you can get that kind of feeling. So don't do that.
So how long would you do this every morning?
I do 3 rounds. Because
right.
that's enough, just enough to connect with my lower chakras and enough to sort of get that little bit of pelvic floor. Being a mum as well, I'm really big on teaching other mums, especially who've had babies, to be exercising their pelvic floor. So I think it's important that we're connected to our womb and our pelvic floor as well. So, but men can obviously do this as well. It's not just for women. But yeah, so that's the technique. Did you feel like you got it?
Yeah, look, I think I did some Kundalini yoga 15 years ago or 10, 12 years ago. So it reminded me of that breathing when you did that. But yeah, I think I'll do it in the privacy of my own home, not on camera.
Not on camera, that's totally fine.
And I'm snorting.
Yeah, I know, it is snorting. But it's great. And there's lots of people who might watch that and say, that's not Kundalini breathing, or this is Kundalini breathing. But I think there's lots of different schools of thought out there. And yes, so I did a pranayama retreat and a Ayurvedic yoga retreat, and we did a lot of breathing, because breathing is one of the limbs of yoga. And that technique was a little bit different how I did it in Thailand to what I'm now doing. And not that I'm even teaching this, but I'm just sort of sharing it because it's been really beneficial just to have one breathing technique to use. There's also the alternate nostril breathing, where you can breathe in through one nostril, close, breathe out through the other. And you can do just plain diaphragmatic breathing as well, where you're just feeling your belly rise as you breathe in and fall as you breathe out. So there's lots, and they're just a couple. So yeah, any breathing technique that you do, I think, throughout the day or in the morning is a great start.
And I think just a reminder to breathe, whether it's Kundalini breathing or, the nostril breathing. I think the reminder to breathe is good enough for me at the moment.
Absolutely.
That pause. Yeah, so thank you. And what else did you mention? Gratitude journal. Why is that a ritual for you?
Well, a couple of months ago, I think it was a couple of months ago, maybe 8 weeks ago, I was reading an article in a magazine, a Time magazine, which was based on mindfulness. The whole Time magazine was a mindfulness edition. Really, really interesting. I wish I had it here so I could show you. But there was a stack of research on gratitude and mindfulness, but predominantly gratitude is just so beneficial. And you have to be a bit careful, because I don't want to say, oh, I'm just being grateful because it's good for you. But they were saying that the science showed that people who were more grateful were happier, were more fulfilled. They had more good in their lives, on self-reported questionnaires and things. And it just got me thinking, that we live in a really interesting world, and to sit here in Australia, it's a really beautiful place to live, and there's so much to be thankful for. And so I've changed my screensaver to what are you thankful for today? And so that's a nice reminder for me just to actually stop and appreciate the small things, because there's so many things in life to feel good about and just to focus on. And that, I believe that when you are in a good place and your mindset is right and you feel good about your life, it's a great starting point for your day, for your month, for your year, for your whole life, because you can then actually, fulfill your potential or have that spring in your step that's going to lead you to helping another person that day, or having more to give to clients, to friends, to family. So getting yourself right is really important, and getting your head right. So I think gratitude for me is getting my head right, and so that I'm not in that, cycle of complaining, or even if it's just up here, because there's not a lot to complain about, really.
bringing you back. But what do you say to people? I 100% agree with that. As you know, I started a gratitude page on Facebook back in 2009.
Yes.
It was probably a more avid, like what you said before, motherhood was probably a more avid practicer of gratitude, like had the gratitude journals and had a more of a practice and connection with it. But what happens to people that kind of get stuck in not just complaining, but not feeling good and having situations happening in their lives that are not particularly good? How do we incorporate gratitude into that as well? Because I know that's possible as well. What is your take on that?
Yeah, so I think you have to be very careful. And maybe this is the health professional part of me. And I know that you obviously have worked with so many like different people of all walks and clients over the years as well. That you can't just, I heard this great quote, okay, quite a while ago. What's her name? I've forgotten. Oh, it'll come back to me. But I'd like to be able to attribute it to her. But she said, you can't pour whipped cream on garbage and think that that garbage is still okay to eat, because it's not. And I like the visual, the analogy of it, because it's, you can't just pour gratitude or, you know, positive vibes on top of something that's festering and think that it's going to be okay, because it's probably not. And so if someone's really hurting, or if they're in a bad place, or if they've got dark stuff that they're processing, that is beautiful, because that's part of life. And if it's not okay and they're not okay, then they need support through that, no matter what that is going to look like for that person, whether it's from friends and family, whether it's a psychologist or a counsellor, seeing their GP, a naturopath, like whatever, having a massage and having some of that stuff come out and be processed. Because as humans, we need to share our suffering. We can't just think that we can do it all on our own, because we can't. So if people are in that space and they need to cry, or they need to work through things and just be there until they are in a place where they can slowly start to feel gratitude for one small thing, like a friend that listened to them, or, you know, a sick day, a mental health day when they really needed to actually just be at home and to chill out and watch their favorite movie or whatever. So sometimes gratitude and sometimes self-care is really small, and really it could even mean just silencing the inner critic and stopping beating yourself up or beating that drum of something that is negative in your life, and just making a conscious decision that you're going to move forward. So it's not always something glamorous like a yoga class or a run, or, you know, being in nature, or if those things aren't what you actually need in the moment. That answers the question.
Yeah, and actually it reminded me of a conversation we had recently, or a voicemail, I don't remember now, but you actually made a point about sometimes self-care is not a yoga class, sometimes it's a bath or something like that, because sometimes it takes a lot of effort to even get to the yoga class, and you're not in the mood to be around people. So did you want to expand on that, or just...
Yeah, so I will say one thing which I learned recently from being at a workshop with Cassie Mendoza-Jones, and she was quoting someone else, but she said that self-care is what happens in the moment. And I really loved that, because you can relate to that, it's about pausing, and it's about pausing in the face of conflict, or in my case sometimes in the face of like a little person who's feeling conflicted and trying to work out what their needs are, and maybe my needs and his needs don't match, and there's, you know, a short amount of drama while we work that out. Or but it's pausing enough to actually listen to that little inner voice, and I call them the little whispers, because we get them all day, these little whispers from our intuition. And if we ignore them, then sometimes there's consequences. And you don't always know what those consequences are going to be, because they can be far-reaching. You know, they can be snapping at a loved one, or they can be even something as big as a car accident. Like if you're just rushing or up here and not actually listening to what you need. So I think being able to tune in to the moment, and even if you can't actually do that act of self-care right then and there because you're busy, if you can still commit to the next time I have a moment, I'm actually just going to sit down and put my feet up, or I'm going to phone that friend, because that's self-care for me right now, is to sit down and have a good old chat and a belly laugh.
And what about people, because I do hear people, and I've probably been one of those people, because we can't just say it's other people, it's always us as well, is that say, I don't have time for self-care, or these rituals sound like they're going to take up most of my morning. What do you say to them? Like, I guess you kind of answered that just before, but yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, and what I've noticed over the years and over the time that I've been running workshops about self-care is that sometimes women come in, because these workshops I run at this stage are for women. I'm looking at doing some for men as well, but they come in and we go around and we ask, well, what are you doing for self-care? And sometimes people honestly look at you and you can see the tears welling in their eyes, because they can't tell you anything that they do to look after themselves or anything that's for them. And so it's a gentle process of saying, well, that's okay, because you actually do know what you used to like doing before you had kids, or before you started working 60 hours a week. You do know. And so I'm not there to tell people what they ought to be doing, or you need to do yoga or Kundalini breath, because they're things that I like, but not everybody's going to like them. For some people, it might be that they used to knit, or they used to, paint, or whatever, cook more, things that they find nourishing, and things that light them up. So it just, and then what I will usually get people to do in that instance is make a list of the things that light them up, and make a list of the things that bring them down, so they can start to explore again. Well, yes, that actually makes me feel good. I'll put that on the lights me up list. So even if they haven't done it for a long time, they can kind of reconnect with it. And same again with the what brings you down list, get them to write what's on there, just so that they can identify. And often they'll say, yeah, I've been spending too much time in the what brings me down, list or box. And I need to go back to picking some of those things that actually make me feel alive again. So
I like that, because as you said, not everyone's going to like yoga and having a bath. Some people might think that's the worst thing on the planet. They might actually want to go for a run, because they're very physical, and so the way that they connect is to burn that energy off in a more physical way.
Like an RPM class or a pump or something.
Yeah, because the release of endorphins is what actually grounds them. But like this morning, I was actually going to do some cleaning, because I felt like I need to clean, because cleaning also sometimes releases energy as well. But as I sat down, I was like, my body actually doesn't want to clean. I think by cleaning, I'm going to feel that release, but I actually just need to come down for a moment and not do it, and be okay with that. What else did I want to ask you about? Oh, mirror work. Oh, I know what mirror work is, but for the audience, can you go a little bit into detail what mirror work is and how it can be beneficial for us?
Yes, okay. So this is something that I started, just trying to think. Yeah, I think it was exactly the same time that I started my self-care block of so it's 124 days today. It's not something that I only just came across, and there'd be a lot of people in the audience watching this who are familiar with Louise Hay. So I was first introduced to mirror work when I got to know Louise Hay, and I saw her speak in Melbourne in 2012, and she was so beautiful. She came out on stage with a little pocket mirror, this sweet little vintage looking one, and she did some mirror work on stage. So most of us who are in the audience were familiar with her book, You Can Heal Your Life, and it's a beautiful book. It's really inspiring. If you haven't got a copy, get one. But yeah, she basically just has revolutionized, I suppose, the New Age kind of movement over the last probably since the 80s, 30 years. So with this idea of self-love. And she first started working with males who in a community centre, I think, as part of her I can't remember whether, I don't know if it was Scientology. I don't think she was into Scientology, but it was, anyway, her work with the church.
I think it was the spiritualist church she started, and she was working with a lot of HIV.
HIV mouse, yes, that's correct.
No Scientology.
Yes, not Scientology. Sorry, Louise. That's fine. Everyone has their own beliefs.
Okay. It's Mercury retrograde.
But anyway, moving on. So, so it's just this idea that you can actually look yourself in the eyes and be kind to yourself, because sometimes we look in the mirror and we say bad things. We look at our wrinkles, or we look at this blemish, or we look at our body and judge it in our minds without even realizing. So we are critical about lots of things. And it's not just how we look, but it might be the things we say to ourselves, or why did you do that? Or why did you say that? So it's just about forgiveness and loving yourself through it all. And so I've started, it was hard at the beginning, but I got a few messages within a couple of days from friends and another speaker that I saw, Marnie Lefebvre, who was big on mirror work as well. So within a few days, the message was start mirror work. So I started, and it was confronting in the beginning, because you'd say all these nice things, and then at the end, like, I love you, good morning, we're going to have an amazing day today. But then sometimes you might say, oh, you look so tired today, and so it's just catching that.
Come on in, ego, get it in.
It was funny because she's like, oh, hey, beautiful. And then she's like, your butt looks big, because on the way out the door, you kind of have to be mindful just of what other criticism comes up to. But it's just, the idea is that if you're feeling good within yourself, and if you get yourself right, and if you love yourself, then you're not wasting precious energy while you're going about your day with low self-esteem, or feeling down on yourself, or with the inner critic going like this. And you don't have to waste that time. You can actually just be more present for people and give more love and love yourself. So it's controversial, but I think it's really beautiful. And having experienced it myself, I've noticed that I feel like I can confidently look myself in the eye now, and I feel more, I guess, in love with myself than I did before I started. But in a grounded way, in like, hey, Lizzie, like, you're okay, you're doing the best you can.
I guess something to take away is you've definitely noticed a difference since you started doing mirror work and how you feel about yourself.
Yeah. Yes, I have.
I think it's a nice ritual to do with children as well.
Yeah. And actually, this is what really inspired me, is because I saw on Facebook one of my sweet friends, Annalise, her little girl had been watching her mummy do mirror work for like a year or 6 months or so, a long time, and just spontaneously went into the bathroom and said, hello, beautiful, we're going to have a great day today, and I love you, like this. And just as a proud mum, Annalise was like, oh, wow, and when I saw that, and that post just got so much love and so much wow, I thought, I want that for my son as well, just to feel that he's confident and he's not beating himself up. He's not hearing his parents say, oh, hey, ugly, in the mirror, or don't look in the mirror, you look terrible. Oh, it's positive messages.
Thank you. And actually, I think you gave me a mirror a few years ago, a little mirror that I've had up until literally a few weeks ago. I had to say goodbye to it because it's been broken for maybe a year. Like, it was one of those, what are they? The snappy ones that. And I was like totally holding on to this mirror because I love receiving gifts, as you know, especially when I live in different countries. And I had this mirror for so long, and I think recently I was like, no, I have to let this go because this has been a broken mirror for about a year. Another one, it's okay. So it just reminded me. But moving on, because I think we've talked for a little while and we only aimed for half an hour, 40 minutes. Have you noticed a difference in your own life since you started bringing self-care back into your life? Because you said for the first 6 months of your son's life, you probably, I mean, I think every mother feels this, probably longer than 6 months. You kind of devote all your energy to your child and, you know, you're in that survival mode. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what's happened since you've re-invited this into your life?
Yeah. So, and I do agree with you. It is more than 6 months. I mean, my son's almost 2.5, and still, their needs are just number one priority, really. And they do come first. In lots of ways. But I guess I could say not in all ways, because I have in the last, couple of months, 124 days, made a commitment in the morning that I would start to give myself a little bit more time now as well. And I can still be a mum and do my rituals, which is what I love. So sometimes my son is like literally climbing over me while I do my Kundalini breath, or he's flicking through my like oracle cards while I pull one out, or so he hasn't started oil pulling yet, but yeah, so I guess what has changed for me is that I feel more grounded again. I felt for the first 1.5 years or so of parenthood that, with differences in sleeping and no real sort of morning routines or even daily routines, because every day is different and we adventure and we explore. The morning routine particularly has been profound for making me feel a bit more normal again. So just to have something that's regular, that I can count on, that I know is going to set me up for the day. I can't tell you the price of that, because it's priceless to feel that I've got this kind of core or base within me that I can draw from during the day. So that's what it does for me, is it gives me that stronger sense so that I'm grounded and I'm not just kind of floating with the breeze through the day. It's been profound. And I used to have a morning ritual, so this is not new for me. And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening have something that they like to do, whether it's that like morning coffee. It doesn't matter what you drink or what you do. It's just the sacredness of it and the consistency. So even if you just picked one thing, that you're just going to do oil pulling, or just going to do a gratitude journal, or read a couple of pages from an inspiring book, that can be so powerful, because it's for you, and before you go out into the world, you've actually done something that's just for you. So it's something I read about, a little while ago, about being proactive instead of being reactive. So a lot of people might turn to their news feed or their Facebook feed or Instagram first thing in the morning, but that's being reactive to the whole world, suddenly in flood, all of these messages. And before you've even had a chance to think about who you are, what you want for that day, who's important to you, what your priorities are, you've got like thousands of other imprints of other people's priorities and ideas and emotions and voices, and it's really overwhelming. So one other part of my morning rituals is that's also been profound, has been to be on airplane mode in the mornings, and I only switch back and come back to the world when I'm ready to like plan our day or ready to make a call or whatever it is, and I just avoid the interwebs in the mornings. So that's profound as well, I think, for people generally. They can just think about being proactive.
It's definitely a great discipline. We protect ourselves at night, well, most people do, as far as I know, by having our phones on flight mode, and I like that a lot. It takes a bit of discipline though, because many of us have some addictions with social media and things like that. So I think by making it a ritual, you're kind of more committed to it in a way.
Yes, that's right, because it's consistent, and then you don't even think about it. Like my phone goes off at 8:30 p.m. and it comes on at probably about the same time in the morning, 8 a.m. rather. Which I know is a long time to be off the grid, and not everyone can do that. But yeah, I like it.
Thank you. And before we sort of come towards the end, I just wanted to ask you to share a little bit about your self-care sessions that you offer, and we can talk about your website as well, and just the things that you make available to people and how.
So I have mentioned the workshops a little bit as we've gone along. Basically, I started these workshops when my son, well, the idea came for them when my son was 6 months old, because when he would have his naps, I would quickly run and get like a candle and some essential oils and a cup of tea and my yoga mat, and I would almost sort of furiously dive into some things that were going to make me feel good again, because I realized that I hadn't done any meditation, I hadn't done anything for 6 months, because I was just really absorbed in breastfeeding and looking after a newborn baby. So when he started sleeping more regularly, I started doing that. And after about 6 months of that, I sort of thought, well, this is a bit strict and I'm not really enjoying it anymore. And sometimes I just want to sleep or watch a show or so. So I decided to make self-care a little bit more intuitive and organic. On the advice of a really sweet friend, Sarah Jensen, who's a coach, she was like, maybe you're putting too much pressure on yourself to meditate. And I was like, you're right, I am. So I decided to just, excuse me, coughing this morning.
Cold in Adelaide, though.
It is. It's actually really frosty out here, and I think my throat, that's why I've got this. We've got the heater on. It's so weird because it was hot last week. I don't think my throat is liking the cold air, but that's fine. I wanted to sit out here because it's so pretty, but it is cold.
I can hear your birds, though. It makes up for my lack of being in the garden today.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be nice to be outside, even though it's fresh. So, so the workshops are basically a combination of some of the things that I started to delve back into. So when people come into the room, it's a beautiful yoga studio that I'm lucky enough to hire. And I have hot teas for people, herbal teas to choose from. And then we all sit down on our yoga mats with our bolsters and things and have a little chat. And we run through some stretches, which are a combination of yoga and Pilates. And the reason that we do this is because all of the asanas in yoga were actually designed for the purpose of being able to sit in meditation. So that's how yoga actually came to being, is because to sit in lotus, you need to have flexible hips. And not that we all sit in lotus, but to sit down and meditate, you need to be flexible. So we stretch first, and then we do a 15-minute meditation that I guide people through. And it's really just a breathing meditation. So it's quite simple. It's from beginners to advanced can do it. And then we smell some oils usually, depending on what oils we need or what the mood is. And we do some journaling. So the technique is different every time, but that what lights you up, what brings you down, that's one of the techniques that I use. And these are all techniques and tools that I've learned from coaching with business coaches and life coaches over the years. So even though I'm not a coach, I suppose I like to incorporate those as part of being a naturopath and helping people on their journey. And then we usually finish up with some discussion, and it's pretty lighthearted, and we all get to connect as women and tell our stories as well. So that sharing and feeling heard and validated that it's a safe, confidential space is really important as well. So I run those 4 times a year, and they're all about harnessing that particular season. So I've got a summer one coming up on Wednesday, December the 20th, and there's still a couple of spots left. So it's in Glenside, which is on just near Green Hill Road in Adelaide. So if you're interested, or anyone you know is interested, I can, obviously you can't come because you're in New Zealand.
Unless it's in January, then that's impossible.
I could start you in.
I'll get on a plane. but thank you. No, I'd love to hop along.
But yeah, if you know of anyone in Adelaide who might be interested, there's still some spots. I think I've sold about half the tickets. It's only a small group, so it's max 8. And yeah, it's just a nice chance to reconnect with yourself and think about, well, what do I need, and am I meeting those needs? And yeah, because when you're in a good place, you can be better for your family, you can be better for your job, for the world, I believe. So you can actually reach that point of self-actualization. So I talk about that in the workshops as well. So it's not just fulfilling our own needs, it's actually being the best that we can be and reaching our potential. So yeah. Yay. All those beautiful things.
And your website is www.elisabethsantos.com.au, which I'll pop in the link below.
And you don't even need the www anymore. You can just put elisabethsantos.com.au and it'll come straight up. Yeah. And there's information on there about the workshops. If you want to get a ticket, you can buy them through Sticky Tickets.
Cool, thank you. So have a look. And do you have any parting words for us today?
Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Really, I think that quote about self-care, being in the moment, is probably the most profound thing. So just getting good at listening to those whispers, and just acting on them as soon as you can, so that you are being divinely guided on what you need to do throughout the day.
I think when I really like the analogy about the whispers, because what I found in my own life is when the whispers are ignored, they become nudges.
Yeah.
Nudges get ignored, they become pulls, and when the pulls get ignored, they become kicks. And I mean, this happens in just small things. This happened to me the other day. I didn't overschedule myself, but I was just running from one thing to the next until I sliced my finger open very quickly. And that's when I stopped finally and was like, okay, now I need to deal with this. And I was like, all right, cool, thank you. It doesn't need to be that drastic, and sometimes it can even be worse, but I noticed that I was running most of the day, and not physically, but energetically. I was never in that moment. So I achieved a lot though, I'll be honest, because sometimes that energy can be creative too. But yeah, my adrenals were feeling it the next day.
You physically slowed yourself down, which is, happens. It's not good, but it happens.
So, no, thank you for sharing with us today, Elisabeth. And I'll post a link below and people can find you on Facebook as well. And maybe we can do another catch up on another topic.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, look, I love women's health and children's health. And so if you want to talk about anything like that, that's, women's health related, then we'll see.
Great. So I hope you have a lovely rest of the day in Adelaide.
Thank you. Have a lovely day in New Zealand. And I'll see you soon.
Great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.